who helps with a lot of the technical side of the awards platform uh, system, if you like, and everything in the back end of it. Also Michelle Murphy, who's from the admissions, well, sorry, from the marketing team, who very much will be sort of helping out in the background. Robin McGuire and Mary McEnroe, who are from admissions, sorry. So today's session is very much focused on the online portfolio platform and how to submit a application for your portfolio, but also for project days, which are all on the same platform. I'm going to take you through the available resources. I'm going to take you through a mock submission step by step, so you can have a look at it. I'll share my screen and I'll do it with you, and you can have a look at what it looks like and the platform looks like, how it functions, and how it's there to help you in a lot of ways. And then if you have any questions, please, by all means, jump in. I think you can use the chat function there, and we'll certainly take more questions at the end if you have any number of questions around this. But I think if we've everybody in, we'll begin in earnest. Just by way of some background, I think it's worth just noting that for a lot of our programs, you have to select them. These are the programs in the Faculty of Film, Art and Creative Technologies in particular. There are a number of programs that require a portfolio. So speaking about film, television, photography, animation, 3D animation, which is a new program, the art program, design for film, graphic design, and I don't think I've left any of them out. That's everything, I think. All of those programs require portfolio. They're restricted programs. So for Irish applicants or EU applicants, you need to make sure that you select it on the CAO form. The CAO.ie is the method for or the agency that deals with all applications to third level institutions in Ireland. Admissions, I'm sure we'll speak to, could come in on that at some point later as well in terms of, but the key thing is that you select those programs if you're interested in them by the 1st of February. And then after that, you'll be automatically invited to submit a portfolio or a project day. So I'll talk you through all of that. Now, we elected to go with an online portfolio platform during COVID because of the fact that obviously we couldn't be meeting in person, but the platform worked out so well for so many people, and in particular people who are based abroad, that we've decided to continue with the online portfolio platform as our main submission form. And actually other colleges such as ours have actually followed the same system because it works really well. Where once you would have to come into IDT with your big black folder full of all your work, now you can submit it all digitally and online, and it actually saves costs. It's easier to process in many ways, and it makes life easier for everybody. Staff like it, everyone who's involved in the process really likes it. So we're continuing with it. So if there's no questions yet, I'll go straight to showing everyone through what the process is, what the basic process is for submitting an online portfolio or a project day. I'll come back to that, what the difference between a portfolio and a project day in a second. But first I wanted to show you the resources that are available and so on. John deals with a lot of the back end in terms of the systems and the platform, and he's very much a computer expert and web expert, and is going to talk to us a little bit about what happens on the 20th of March. So the deadline for all these submissions is the 20th of March, 5 o'clock on the 20th of March. And he's there very much busy on those few days around that, helping people finalize their applications and dealing with any questions. But he'll certainly, I'm sure, be happy to answer any questions you might have here today around that. As I said, the chat is there. Will there be a link to the recording later? I assume if there is a recording, there will be a link to it later. And forgive my stop-start nature of my talking. I suppose we've all gotten used to that at this stage, and the weirdness of Teams. But anyway, I think the first thing and the best thing for me to do is to share my screen. So I'm going to share my screen to a particular window. I'm going to share my web browser. So hopefully you should be able to see my web browser. Can you see my web browser there? John, is it coming up? Yeah. Okay, well, we're on the IDT website here. So IDT website, and there's a whole section on digital portfolio subsets. And even if I just go home, back to the beginning, if you put in portfolio in the search bar, it'll come up as the first option. And this is where there's actually quite a lot of information here. So I really would encourage you to have a look at what's here in terms of information, how it takes you through it. There's a link to a PDF for the guidelines booklet. This booklet, we spent a lot of time working on this to give you an idea of what's required for each of the different portfolios. There's lots of advice, and it goes through all the different programs. So I didn't mention creative music production. But so there's a number of different programs that require portfolios, and they all have different and distinct requirements, some less so than others. But you can see there from the booklet, there's a lot of information there that you can use. If I keep going, there's a link to the submission. I'll come back to that now in a second. But there's also more videos. There's a really handy tips for photographing your digital work. Our graphic design students did this, and it takes you through that. So there's a lot of information here on telling you how to actually photograph your work, because a lot of your work may be physical work. It could be sculptures, it could be paintings, it could be drawings, it could be notebooks, all that kind of thing. So this really gives you some very good basic information on how to do it just by using a smartphone. So there you go. There's also a really good video. It's only 3 or 4 minutes long that again explains a bit more of that. Now, the other thing then is the project day. I might come back around to that if that's okay. That's another mode of entry that you can use to come in that's separate to the portfolio, but the deadline is the same, March the 20th. I'll come back to that. That's only available for certain programs. There's another masterclass video of me talking about portfolios if you're really bored and want to hear me some more. There's also a really good discussion with some of the students from a couple of years ago who talk about their experiences of putting together a portfolio. I think that's certainly worth watching. And then there's other information around. There's a really good FAQ section here because we've obviously dealt with a lot of the questions you might have before. And then there's appeals procedures and so on, should you need to use them at the end of the process. So that all the information is there. Now, I might just talk a little bit about project days and portfolios. So project days are another thing we brought in a number of years ago to help people apply who might not feel like they are ready to put in a portfolio, or that their portfolio isn't advanced enough. So what you can do is you can register for a project day and basically submit a project instead of your portfolio. It works exactly the same. Now, our portfolio and the scoring, all of this is built around 600 points. So the basic idea is that you get up to 600 points for your portfolio or your project. You can submit both. You can do a project and a portfolio, or you can even put your project day work in with your portfolio, or both. All of these things are possible. You can use your project day work to supplement it. But a certain number of programs, graphic design, art, animation, photography, and design for film, we will do online workshops on the 13th, 14th, 15th of February. And you register for one or other of them. And as part of that, you'll do a number of workshops. And then you'll also be, you can do a brief at home. You'll have to do some work at home. So there's this brief, which is the new version, yes. And it's the 2023 version, so it just got updated today. So you do this brief, you submit the work that's included in this brief, and then you also submit the work that you'll do on the day of the project day. And all of that work then is assessed in the same way as a portfolio, and you'll be given a score for that. So that brief is there. I've lost the page. That's the, I can't. I will go. I've closed. Here we are. So that's the project day, and as I said, we use the same platform, awards platform, for the submission. I'll just go. I'll stop sharing my scene and see if there's any questions come in just yet. Does engaging the project day on top of the portfolio improve admission chances? No, it doesn't improve your chances. Insofar as like it doesn't, the score, you'll be scored independently if you're doing the project or the portfolio. I do recommend people do the project day even if they are putting in a portfolio. What we've discovered is a lot of people enjoy the day in itself. It's a chance for you to interact with the lecturing staff, a chance for you to do some work, get a better sense of the program and what's involved, and get a better a better understanding overall, I suppose, of what might be involved. So, and the work you do as part of your project can be included as part of your portfolio. So, I think it's worth considering. Certainly, it's almost like a taster of the program. School grades influence the admission. So the admission is based on, and this is probably from an international student, a combination of your portfolio plus in Ireland, it would be the leaving certificate. It's the terminal exam in school. So whatever terminal exam you have in your country would be added to the portfolio. There'd be points are allocated based on the there's a system of allocating points based on what country you're from, and that those scores are added together, and based on that score, that's what opens up the chance for coming into the college. All of that is handled by the CAO. We have very little control over that insofar as who gets in at that point. There's no project day. Sorry, yes, there's a question there for film or television. No, there's none for film or television. I can see Robin is answering a lot of the questions as well, which is brilliant. Thank you, Robin. And Liam has a question there. Can pieces made from the project day be used in the portfolio? Yes, you can. And Sergio, will there be project days for all courses? It's only just the ones that are listed, those 5 courses that are listed, that the project is involved. Okay. I think there's no other question there for the moment that I think Robin and Mary in the background, I'm sure will be able to answer a lot of those. I'll go back to sharing my screen. John, there's nothing I've missed so far, is there?
No, so far so good. I mean, what I would sort of just add to it is in terms of being very conscious of the type of course you're applying for, and to try and tailor, because as you can imagine, a lot of the lecturers that examine each of the portfolios, they're looking for moments of difference. They're looking for somebody who's very prepared for the application. So in the very high demand courses, you need to be quite tailored about what you show and how you show it. And you should really begin to think or talk to people about what might be the best mode of doing that. So, for example, if it's animation, it may be, it won't be your standard artwork that you might be doing in your art classes for your Leaving Cert. It would be more around showing character development. It would be thinking about stories. It would be thinking about narrative use of your. So begin to think and shape your work towards that. And you'll find those people are more successful in how they do as a general score.
That's a good prompt for jumping into the actual submission there. So I'll again go back to presenting. Hopefully you can see my web browser, and I'll go to there's a link here for the digital portfolio platform, but it's just portfolios.idt.ie. And I have just set myself up previously under my Gmail address. So I'm just going to log in here. And this is what you see when you log in. So already this morning, I was just reminding myself how it all works. I put together a little submission for television. So basically, I'd encourage everyone to register and have a look and start to get used to the feel and how this platform works. It is very intuitive and I think is very user friendly. But you start with start submission, and then there's obviously a listing of the minimum requirements you need, and then you submit the category. So you have to select, if you're applying for project day or submitting a portfolio, you have to select a category. So let's say we're going for undergraduate applications 23. So that's your portfolio application. And then you would pick a program. So I'm going to pick photography and visual media. You can use the same content for multiple programs, but you must make multiple entries. So by all means, you could use the same material for photography as for design for film or whatever it might be. Or as John mentioned, you do and should really try and tailor it a bit. But you know, if you have a suite of photographs that you'd like to use, there's no reason why you can't use it for multiple programs, but maybe adjusting it for the different programs. So I'm just going to hit save and next. There's a little bit of information on the BA and that's there. And then the first thing I will ask you to do is upload your CV. So a CV we like to see as a way of kind of giving a sense of you as a person. You're not applying for a job in your local shop. It's not that kind of a CV. It's more a kind of a sense of you as a person. It's a chance for you to kind of illustrate some of the things you would have done. Are you a member of a band? Are you, you know, why do you feel like you're a creative person? All of these kinds of things help to kind of give us a picture of you as a person. So this, like any thing, you select file. So I created a file earlier called my portfolio 2023, and I have all my material ready to go. And I have my CV here, and I'm going to open it and I'm going to upload it. And there it is. So I'm going to go save and next. The next thing it asks you to do is your personal statement. So your personal statement is what you can see there. It gives you 800 words to talk about yourself and why you're interested in this specific program. I think it's a real good opportunity to talk about um, why you're interested in a particular program, why you're particularly keen on that program over others, or why you feel you're a creative person. And you can include links, you can include all sorts of different things here if you want to other kinds of material. So that you can paint a picture of yourself. Some people might even include a little 30-second video about themselves, talking about themselves. All of those things are possible, but you will have to type in. So this, or how about I am the most wonderful person in the world. I wouldn't say that. I can say that because I'm not the most wonderful person in the world. We'll ask you to confirm that you are the author of all this work, and you can go save and next. So now you can start to build your content, and you can start to select attachments. And again, you can click here, and I have a series of pictures that were taken. Nothing particularly exciting. You can have multiple pictures, and you can go upload them, and you can see they all start to upload there. And here you can start to put in information. It gives you characters and spaces, a type of it. Is it a work in progress? Is it a video file? What is it? It'll allow you to, give in additional information about these pieces of work. The other thing you can do is actually you can include a PDF, where this is actually a PDF of multiple pieces of work, all in the one PDF. So that, just give it a chance to, it's processing it, so it'll take a little while. But you can then see it online, and it's multiple work, and it tells you, again, this is somebody's photographed different pieces of drawing, different kinds of work, life drawing, and so on and so forth. And you can, and this is first year work, so you get a sense of the standard from an art portfolio. But again, you can put in headings, all sorts of things, and work with the PDF to create something a little bit more creative. And so how you present the work is also interesting to us, and a way for you to kind of express yourself. So there you can see it's quite simple, and there's a lot you can do in terms of including you can include video links here at this point. I uploaded earlier a video on YouTube, if I can just find it. Of course, I have lots of nonsense that my children look at. And I don't have the link. Where's the link? I'll find the link afterwards and put it up. But you put the link in there, and again, you add it, and it'll show you all sorts of different things. Anything you want to come in on there, John?
Yeah, so a couple of things. What's important is you don't have to do this all at one moment of time. Yeah. And you also don't have to do it in the order that currently Ronan is doing it in. So for example, if your personal statement isn't written, or you write it and you think, I want to think about that, remember that at the bottom of the page, if you just scroll down there, Ronan, you can see that there's a number of buttons. So preview allows you to preview what your portfolio will look like to us. Save and next. When you're saving, be aware that we're not seeing it yet. It's only saved for you. So therefore, you can go in, do your personal statement, save it, and then leave it and come back the next day, upload portfolio, save it. It is only when you press, and it's really, really important, it is when you press submit. If you don't submit your portfolio, we don't look at portfolios that were only saved. And that has happened in previous years where there's portfolios sitting there that someone forgot to press submit. So you can work on it at a number of different points in time, but just when you're happy with it, that is when you need to press the submit button. And that is when it's submitted to us. The other useful thing to be aware of, and I'll just very quickly, I have it open here, Ronan,
Go for it, yeah.
share my screen, which should be that one there. That when you have multiple submissions, so in this case, for example, you can go in And if you're applying for multiple courses, and again, Ronan will actually touch base on this, it's probably really important that you look at second and third options, certainly second options in the very high demand courses. So for example, film is obviously one of the high demand courses, but television is not as in demand. And we may see a candidate that we feel is very appropriate to television, but isn't getting in to film, but yet they haven't applied. So it's important that if you are interested or would accept a position in any course, that you put it in there. So you can see here that I would now go through this process. And if I go back, you can now see that I have multiple submissions that are all ready to go. One is for film, one is my project day for art, and the other one is the portfolio for art. Students can do the project day and submit a portfolio for any of the courses that have a project day. I mean, what as Ronan said, it's a really good idea to get a sense of the way we want you to think, and it might help you in terms of your preparation for portfolios and so on. But just be aware that in any of these, that when you are finished, you must press the submission, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay.
That's a really important point there, and one that we always get those panicked calls after the deadline of somebody who forgot to hit submit, and we want to help you to help to apply. We we want to see the best portfolios we possibly can. So please reach out to us, and the admissions team are great as well in terms of helping with advice on these kinds of things. I finally found my video, so I might just do that and show you how that looks. Hopefully you're seeing my browser again. Is that up there, John? Yeah.
Yep.
So those of you on, I mean, you can use Vimeo or YouTube, depending. We do ask you to make sure that the video is unlisted. That's unsearchable. So that's the link there. So I'm going to copy that link. And I'm going to go to my submission. This was the preview of that submission. So I'm going to go back out of that. And you have a couple of places where you can put a video link. You can put it here. And you can add some extra text here, or there's another place here where you can add in videos where you can put in your link, and you can go save it next. Save it next.
Just preview it now.
I'll preview it now, yeah. And you have the CV here. This is the personal statement. Obviously, if it was 800 words, it'd be much larger. And we have videos here, and also the video is here and pops up as a little tile. But you know, these little bits of text where you go back here, there's a real opportunity there for you to actually talk a little bit and give us a little bit about information, or even things like as simple as please look at this first, or if there's particular work you want to look at. For those people interested in art related programs where there's drawing, one of the things that you can often do, and you'll find that in the instructions, is actually do videos of your sketchbooks. So people might be worried about how can I represent physical work. A sketchbook, you can actually I'll just stop sharing screen now because I'm making gestures here, because you can actually use a mobile phone, hold it straight up, and just turn the pages of your sketchbook slowly and put that up as a video on YouTube. And you can talk. As remember that the phone has a microphone, so you can talk to us and we'll listen to it and say, oh, this was my work when I was 17 and I was trying to this, or this was the preparatory work I did for the painting you see in that, or whatever it might be, or because one of the things a lot of the programs are looking for is not just about the technical ability. Like, it's not just about your technical ability. It's also about your process. We're very interested, particularly in programs like graphic design and design for film, where there's a design component, that you're prototyping, you're developing your ideas, you're researching your ideas, you're drawing on multiple resources, on multiple ideas to then create your own work. And that's really, really interesting to us, and will stand out, I think, if you can show how you developed your idea from a blank page to a finished piece of work all the way along. That's really interesting to us, and that you actually snap that out for us in a logical way. Because remember, the assessors are looking through it could be looking up to, not each individual, but for some programs there's about 400 applications. So, you have to help us to help find you. So a table of contents is a good idea when and as John mentioned, at the very end, when you're happy with everything, upload a table of contents that itemizes the list of everything that's there. Explain to us why we should be looking, what should we be looking at, and the connections between the works. Sometimes for photography, for example, you might have a theme, like maybe you did a series of portraits, maybe group them together. Did you try and tackle a particular idea or set of themes that in a creative way? Anything like that can go some way to helping us understand you as a creative person and your processes. Are there any other questions there? I mean, I know everyone has been piling through the questions. CV templates, there's no real CV templates. Again, it's very much about helping us get a better sense of you as a person. So, and you can link it in with your personal statement in terms of is it as a way of supporting your personal statement, if you like. There's lots of different ways of approaching that. I would really stress a point that John made earlier there about you can make multiple entries to multiple programs. You can use the same material for multiple programs, but you really do need to make individual submissions for each program. So if you're applying for television, if you're applying for film, if you're applying for art, for graphic design, and so on, you need to have one for each. If you're doing a project day and a portfolio, you can do that, but please remember to do one of each. And that's really important as well. And it will be the higher score. If you're higher on your project day or your portfolio, whichever the higher score is, we'll go with that higher score. In terms of the scoring is out of 600, I mentioned earlier, and it's based on 4 sets of 150. Research and development, it gets 150. The use of media is 150. General practical, that's your technical skills, 150. And the course specificity is 150. So it's 4 sets of 150. Each portfolio is assessed by at least 2 people. And we do our very best to make sure that there's gender balance there. There's a man and a woman looks at each of the portfolios. So that's really important to us as well. I don't know if Mary from admissions or anybody would like to come in on anything there that, particularly the scoring goes out. We'll try and get the scores out to you 2 weeks after the deadline. We'll start assessing right away from the 21st onwards, and we'll do our level best. Film and television involves a short interview, kind of a conversation with the team, which will take place after the Easter break. So they'll be a little bit later. But otherwise, we do that as quickly as we can. Also for creative music production, if you're interested in the practice pathway, if you're playing a musical instrument, you will be called for an audition.
It's probably,
if you're interested in that pathway.
It's probably useful to also point out that within that creative music, if you need to know what pathway you're going to go down before you apply. And within the portfolio setup, it's the only course that after you choose it, you have to tell us which pathway you're going to, so that we know, because CAO doesn't tell us that. So it's just it's important that you know what pathway you want to go down, and information on those pathways is available on the IADT website, the course website. Okay.
I've lost track of the questions here, but there's a question here from Emma Collins, and she asks if the minimum points for a course were 600, would it be made up of 260 for the portfolio and 340 for the leaving? And yes, that's how it would work. Something like that. I mean, the points off the top of my head, the points I think for photography last year were somewhere in the round region of 700. So if you got, let's say, 400 in your portfolio, you'd need to get 300 in your leaving certificate or whatever equivalent terminal school exam that you would be doing. A question here, was it possible to only upload one PDF? You can. There's an upper limit of 25 megs, is it, John, on any one submission? I'm trying to remember. Certainly each individual, if I remember, each individual piece you can upload is 5 megabytes, but there's no limit on the amount of things you can put up. But I think there's an upper total, so you may have to compress some of the images, which is fine. We understand that has to happen in a web context, but I wouldn't limit yourself. I mean, one thing sometimes people do is they also have, for example, a PowerPoint that you can upload, or indeed a link to a website. If you have a website with your portfolio work all housed there, that's also something you could do as well. If you've been building a portfolio of stuff on Google slides, for example, or there's loads of online portfolio platforms. You can do that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to scan through the questions here. Yes, it's combined score between the two, so it's that's how. Is it possible to create multiple portfolio submissions for different courses at once? Yes, we often find that, and where there's a person has started one, abandoned it, and started another one for the same program. That's totally possible. But it is easy to manipulate the one you can. You can take stuff off and put it on or whatever. But sometimes people like to start fresh. That's okay. Yes, for a film program, you can yeah, I'd encourage you all to have a look at the booklet because there are guidelines in each of the for each of the programs about what we're looking for. So for film, there's specific requirements around a drama, a short film, but there's also all the supporting material that goes with that, screenplays and all the material. And for television, it would be more a factual piece, documentary or television style piece. But again, there's a whole range of work, and we like another thing that we'd like to see is a critical analysis of your work. So a written piece where you look at your work and what have you done well, what did you learn from doing it, and so on and so forth. And again, that adds to your own sort of awareness and our awareness of you as being able to analyze your work.
But Ronan, just to update you there, it's a 10. We upgraded the size to a 10 megabyte limit.
Oh, right.
So you should be fine. I mean, if anybody's struggling with that, they can always send an email in to us, and we can, but you could just divide your file up into, part 1, part 2, part 3. But I mean, 10 megabyte uploads for each element, and then you're able to upload whatever the hell you want. It's docs, JPEGs, GIFs, PNGs, TIFFs, PSDs, PowerPoint files, all sorts of files, video files, so they all should be fine. So, and if you have any difficulty with any of those, you can just test it and get in touch with us if there's an issue.
I would encourage, I mean, even if you're putting up a PowerPoint, I mean, depending on the if there's dynamic elements or things like that, but PDFs are very stable and are good in that regard. And bearing in mind that the person assessing it may be clicking on it and downloading it and looking at it in some different way. And the last thing you want is something not working. So, and again, we do our best to try and reach out to people if things elements are missing or are not working. If you submit too early, do you see your portfolio early? John, that's a question maybe for you. I mean, once it's submitted, you can still withdraw it, I think, and edit it until the deadline, can't you?
Yeah, you can. I mean, what I would say to you is no one is really looking at these until that deadline occurs. And maybe just to cover through, I think Ronan covered some of it, but once that date occurs, we go through a very kind of formal system around marking. So your portfolio is viewed by 2 or more members of the team, and generally those members of the team would be very experienced in terms of portfolio assessment and so on, and they score generally independently. So that allows, and then the average of both scores are used. They would also have a moderation meeting where they're reviewing overall the scores to make sure that, things were balanced in terms of if they had missed something or not missed something. So at that point, then the scores are then saved back to us when the judging is complete. And from that point, that generally occurs 21 days after the deadline date. So I think the deadline date is the 20th of March. Is that right, Ronan? Yep. So we're looking at around the 12th of April. Easter is happening in and around that point there. I don't have my diary straight in front of me, but the admissions office will be issuing then results. We'll write you a letter to let you know what your next stages are or whether you were unsuccessful. We also send all of those scores to the CAO office so that they're able to then calculate it with your Leaving Cert and so on and so forth. Be also aware that the day of submission or the day before, sometimes we get what would we describe as panic situations. In general, we run a very formal system. But if there is anybody who is in difficulty or having issues, then it's really important that you just get in touch with us, because it may be our problem. And if it isn't our problem and we're able to help, certainly myself, Mary, or whoever else, Robin, will be very much on board to support you over the line. And we really want you to apply. So it's important for us too. So if you have issues, you never feel stupid. Make sure to contact us and say, I can't do X. And it might be just a simple little reply that'll help you with that.
And there's a question here just around going through the project day brief again. So I might do that just briefly. I'll go back to my browser. If I can do that now, hopefully you can all see the brief again. Just to kind of recap, this is available online. Have a look at it and read through it. But this is available now, so you can start working now on it. And so the first day there's 2 stages, if you like, to the project. The first is fulfilling this brief. You're asked to choose a theme, whether very general themes, homes and identities, light, space, and time. Choose 2 of the following formats. So you might want to make a GIF, a photo book, a storyboard, a folded A2, a box, or an A1 sheet, a poster. Choose 2 of those, and then you have to go through a series of tasks. I'm not going to go read through all that, but basically you have to make 2 pieces of work, and then write about it and talk about it. That's the project you do at home. Then, once you've done all that, and you can keep working on that until March the 20th, you register with us for an online workshop, which happens. These are the virtual project days themselves. They'll be the 13th, 14th, and 15th. You register for one of those, or all of them, or however many that apply to you. There'll be general ones and then also course specific ones. And you will be doing work with lecturers online on Teams for the day, for most of the day. There'll be sessions in the morning, different exercises, Q&As, and chances to talk through your work. And also you'll be talked through again how to, this conversation will happen again in terms of how to submit your work. So you'll submit all that, the work you do in the online day in February, plus the work you do at home that's outlined in this brief. All of that work you submit and digitally on the awards platform, just like you would for a portfolio. So just to go back to the beginning here, I'm going to log out of this. You would go logging back in, and you'd start a new submission, and you'd choose the category project days. And this will only be available for certain programs: graphic design, art, animation, photography, visual media, and design for film. And you'd start that, and again, you go through the exact same process of submitting all your project day material here, like you would do for a portfolio. And as I said, you can submit it, you can do the project day, submit that work in and of its own. You can use that work if you want to supplement your portfolio, and we've looked at the data over the last couple of years, and nearly everyone submits. I think it was only 10 people last year didn't submit a portfolio out of the whatever 1,500 people who applied. So it's a lot of people use the project day just as another way of getting a better sense of the program. I go back to the questions. I know Robin and Emma are furiously trying to respond to them. When is a good time to start preparing your portfolio online? There's never a good time. This evening is a good time. Whenever you feel up to it. It's about gathering your material. I mean, a lot of your work will be physical work. You need to start selecting work and figuring out how you're going to tell your story. So there's no time like the present. We're very conscious of the fact that it's difficult to study for school and also do a portfolio at the same time. Sometimes people go away and do a portfolio preparation program after school. They take a year out to do their portfolio, but then some people manage to do both. So it depends very much. If you submit too early, can you edit after? Yes, that's right. I mean, you can really work on it right up to the deadline. Is it allowed to upload artwork that's inspired by other work as in a game? Yeah, I mean, you just make sure you reference it properly so that, like, what we're not looking for is your ability to copy work. That's interesting from a graphic point of view, I suppose, and from an illustrative point of view. But because it's much more interesting to us, your own creative process. But certainly, if you're referencing work, and it is interesting to us to know that you have an interest in particular art or whatever it might be, and that certain things inspired you. Definitely, that's your research work. But it's more about the ultimately it's your own creative work that's interesting to us. Uh, is it possible to copy a portfolio layout if you have a film portfolio? Basically, what happens when each time you do submission, you re-upload all the work. So you'd have to re-upload all the different elements, and any of the text elements you could copy across. But as I said, if you're doing an application for film and for television or photography or whatever it might be, do tailor them slightly for the different programs. It's better to have all your photos in a PDF instead of putting them in separately. That's for you to call, Robert. It depends. I mean, sometimes how you present work is important in terms of photographs need to sit together. But if there's really, uh, if there's images you really are proud of and you want to single them out, maybe that's the way to go. It depends. It depends on whether or not they're linked thematically or if they're linked in some other kind of way. As I kind of have tried to say, how you present your work is as much part of it as anything else. Sorry, I've got a cold here, so I'm full of sniffles. um, Can you link a digital portfolio as a website if you have one? Absolutely, you can. Please do. You can add in that link. I often find that portfolios that only have a link feel a bit bare. Maybe certainly it doesn't. It's not a negative, but I think you need to populate it as well with work as well as much as anything else. And I think that would be my advice anyway. If my portfolio does not reach the passing mark, could the leaving certificate marks make up for it? You do need to pass your portfolio um, to be able to be to qualify for the program. So the pass mark is 240 points for the portfolio. That question, Mary's answered that. Uh, I don't have an upload of things from years ago for GDPR reasons. We're not allowed to share past ones, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. And that's why I've got my own dreadful summer photographs there for you to look at. How many people applied to film last year? I think it was well, to animation it was over 400. To film, I think finally it was about 180, 190, I think, submitted a portfolio. So would the CV be like describing yourself and telling your sort of journey with art? That's more or less this, yeah. I mean, it's kind of, but other things, think about it laterally though as well. I mean, that's why I mentioned things like, are you interested in music, or are you in the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts? You know, are you an organized person? Have you always been an organized person? How do you, because those qualities are important as much as anything else. And think about it as well in terms of, like, I mean, my own background is as I had a department of film. Everybody wants to be a director. So it's harder to stand out in that way. So are you interested in cinematography? Are you interested in editing? Are you interested in sound, producing? We don't have enough producers in the world. So, all of these things, and also for, I mean, John comes from a design background. I mean, there's all sorts of aspects of this that you can bring to the fore. Animation, life drawing is really, really important for life drawing. So repeat those four. I don't know what those four were. I'm guessing it's the 4 points, the four sets of points. It's 150 points for research and development, 150 points for use of material, your media, 150 points for general practice, that's your technical ability, and 150 for course specificity, how specific the material you're presenting is for that course. There's no length on the CV. It's really up to you. But I wouldn't. It's not. 2 pages is plenty, I would have thought. Where do we find out when each of the course project days is on? We will, after the deadline of February the 1st, we'll issue the timetable for those days. Once we have our, I think Mary might have that. I think sort of the first week in February we send out the invitations to the project days.
Yeah, I can talk about that timeline now if you.
Please, yeah, do, yeah.
Perfect. So a lot of people I've just replied to in the chat with my colleague Robin and Michelle. So thanks everyone for popping in. We're just admissions here. So just to give you a timeline so we're waiting until the 1st of February at 5 p.m. So that is the deadline across the board for EU and non-EU students to get in the restricted courses, and restricted courses require portfolio and or depending on after that an interview or audition. So we get the final applicants around the 8th of February. So we'll be emailing you then, inviting you in for the project day briefs where applicable. And at that time, we'll also, for film and TV and creative music production, for example, we'll be inviting you to complete your portfolio. All are due on the 20th of March. You'll be assigned, so if you have one, for example, graphic design, you'll be invited in for a course specific day. If you have more, if you have animation, 3D animation, a few of them that are listed on the project day, you'll be invited in for kind of a mixture. So a kind of a general day where you'll get an insight into a few different courses, for example. But that will be emailed to you on the email that you use for the CO application form by around the 8th of February. We get the actual applications about a week after the 1st of February, with the deadline is when CAO provided to us. And then just to say, there's a lot of questions about points and everything, or how many people applied last year. So people might be coming in through different entry routes as well. We might have mature students who might be submitting a leaving certificate as such. They might be submitting work experience, life experience, etc. So a CV, and I know a CV came up, a CV, we typically kind of suggested a CV showing any kind of relevant work experience, voluntary experience, any kind of independent learning, or any hobbies and interests, anything that kind of promotes you as a potential professional in that area. And then there's obviously a personal statement as well, which is kind of a selling point as well of why you think you'd be suitable as an applicant for this program. You can come in as a mature student. We reserve 10% of places for mature students. FE student or QQI, so that if you've done a level 5 or you're currently doing level 5 or level 6, we reserve in round 0, which is an early offer in August to those students as well. And they're reserved 10% of places. And then obviously the leaving certificate, we also have routes like here and there. Although it doesn't reduce points off portfolio, it will reduce points off your leaving certificate as well. But all students are emailed a week after the 1st of February through the direct application for non-EU students or CAO, and it will come from ourselves, and myself and Robin. Robin mainly will be communicating at that time after February, and she'll be available by phone call or email. And I know that the portfolio, the technical, I know that Ronan and John had mentioned it. Any technical issues, even if it was just, can you see my submission, which was my main question last year, can you see what I see? Just give me a call or give us a call and we'll go through it and we'll say what we can see. We can reassure you it's no problem at all. Our main thing is, we're here to help. We're human beings ourselves. We understand pressure. So we're just there to make sure that, the main thing is you put it in, because if you don't put it in, you're not in it to win it. So just put your portfolio in, put your best foot forward, attend the project days if you can, and get the most out of it and submit it. Check with us if it's submitted okay. Any technical errors, we understand. We're here to help. In the email that will communicate with you all, we'll have our phone number and our email address, and we're available. We're in the office as well. If you want to drop in and just see us in person, that's absolutely fine. But we're here to help. And if you have any kind of questions about kind of admissions specifically, I'll put our admissions emails. If you just want anything, in a specific case, I've put an email address in there. Myself and Robin look after it, and we can kind of, any tailored questions we can do. But the main thing is any communication. Once you have us on the 1st of February, 5 o'clock, put us down, put all the courses down, and then you'll be in the mix, and we'll contact you about project days and portfolios for that course. But yeah, I can go through Q&A at the end, Ronan, if any admissions queries come up, but I can answer as well any queries in the meantime. Is that okay? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, no, great. That's all very helpful. I'll try and fly through. I know
Yeah.
yourself and Robert are answering a lot of these questions, but I'll try and fly through some of these before we wrap up. a lot of questions about linking to websites. I mean, that's all fine, as I said before. But again, it's nice to see your own work as well, that you sort of pull out the best work. I think we've answered the CV question a few times. Where do I find out when each of the course project day is on? As Mary just answered that in terms of we'll let you know after in February, we invited to specific ones. Singers will also be called for auditions as part of creative music production. That's part of it. There's no common starting year. If that's a common first year, all our programs, unlike NCAD, which is a common first year, and then you kind of go into streams, we have separate programs and separate disciplines. Although the art program, for example, is more multidisciplinary rather than as an example. Is there an interview for EU students applying for film and television in person or online? If you're abroad, we can do it online. That's no problem. Most of the interviews will, in fact, they'll all be online. Sorry, yeah. It's been a while since I did that. Question again about the CV. I don't want to be too specific about what the CV is. I mean, it is both your skills and interests, and also your journey with art. I mean, how you tell your story is up to you, really. I mean, your CV is more more of a, it comes in a more of a list form, I suppose, but you can also have narrative elements within it. And then you have the personal statement, which tends to be more a straight narrative, which talks about your journey with art, as you put it. I think we've talked a lot about what the project day is there. There's a lot of information on the website. I encourage everyone to go look at the website, idt.ie, where you can get there's a lot of information there on all the different aspects of what we're doing. So if you want to go for 2 courses, you would have to make 2 separate portfolio applications and potentially go to 2 project days. There are some general project days as well. So you could do 1 for that. But it depends on yourself and as well in terms of what you think you'd like to do. Yes, you can absolutely include work that's unfinished. I said earlier, we're very interested in process. So seeing work that's unfinished and getting a sense of your work as it's developing is really interesting to us. Student applying via the CEO as well as a PLC are both results considered of the best one considered. If I understand that correctly, whatever your highest score is, we will have certainly take whatever your highest score as.
If that's a question, if you have a PLC and a Leaving Cert, if you have a PLC, you will include that information on your application form, and that's out of a maximum of 390. So you will be included in round 0, which is an early round in August, where 10% of the places are reserved for PLC or FE or QQI level 5 or level 6 applicants. And if then, for example, it's a huge demand and you unfortunately didn't make that offer round, you're then put into round 1 if you have a Leaving Certificate, and we'll take the higher of the 2. So if you got 415 in your Leaving Cert or 390, we'll take the higher of the PLC or the Leaving Cert and add it to your portfolio. And then you'll be assessed from round 1 onwards through that way.
There's a question here about 1 project or all 3. Again, you can do a general portfolio or you can do course specific ones. It depends on what's the most important to you in terms of whether you want to go for a specific program primarily, or whether or not you're more undecided about where exactly you want to go. Are theatre related works considered relevant for film? Recorded stage performances, stage playwriting? They are considered, yes, but would not be the primary thing we're looking for. There's no interviews for the 3D animation programs, and the 3D animation program is brand new. We're in the process of validating it, and the portfolio for the main animation program, if you like, or the core animation program, we don't like to call it a 2D. It's a mixed animation. It does all sorts of everything, a mix of 2D, 3D, stop motion, and other forms of animation. So if you like the first animation program, you can use the same portfolio for both programs. works where other people have assisted in the productions. Yeah, it's very important if you're submitting work where you've worked with other people that you identify what piece of it you did and where you did. So, for example, if you're the writer, the director, or whatnot, so it's obviously the more central a role you play in the making of a particular piece of work, that's important. But if you got to work as an assistant on a major feature film or something like that, or if you were assisting in a graphic design studio, working as an intern for a summer or something like that, all of that is really interesting to us. If you've done competitions, if you've won prizes, you can upload certificates, all sorts of things could be put up and to show us, again, your interest in the particular subject. There's no kind of upper limit in terms of how big do we need our portfolio. Again, it's about you telling us your story, so you have to make a judgment on that in terms of what best helps us to understand you and your particular interests. There's a question here: do we focus on a particular theme for photography or multiple themes? I would imagine multiple themes. It can be. We want to see a good range of work, black and white and color. We also want to see your research work, your sketchbooks, your collections, your interest in, but you're interested in the discipline. So and it can be something as simple as I said before, as just a series of portraits, depending on the kind of work you do. No, there's no project day for film or television. And the next open day won't be until, oh, sorry, no, I beg your pardon. We're going to have an open day.
25th of March.
25th of March. So we will have another open day the 25th of March. So it'll be after the portfolio deadline, but you're more than welcome to come down and meet us. And a lot of people do. How many points are needed for the portfolio and animation? That's a tricky question.
At a minimum of 240. So across the board, you have to have 240 points to be eligible to be still, I suppose, in the running for the program. So even if a student would need to get 240 plus their leaving certificate, it can go up and down in terms of points based on supply and demand each year. I've linked, and I can link again, the prospectus, which has the CO points from last year. So that'll give you a good idea of what you need. And it can be a combination of your CAO, your Leaving Cert, or your high school equivalent and your portfolio results. But you'd need to get a minimum of 240 in your portfolio, and you'd need to meet the minimum entry requirements, which is typically 2 H5s and 406s. But as I said, if you're applying outside of Ireland and you have specific transcripts or high school equivalent, you can email admissions@idt.ie and we can let you know the equivalency. But that's a perspective from last year, and it goes through the different points.
You're allowed to submit work from your Leaving Certificate sketchbooks, of course. This question again on the breakup of the grading for the portfolio is that it's 4 batches of 150 points for research and development, use of media, general practical skills, and your course specificity again. Is it possible to change course during studying from arts to film? You'd have to apply through the CAO again. You can do a direct entry into second year or third year, but you'd have to go into through the CAO process again for applications for moving from one program to another. And that's very much dependent on space being available in a given program. So if there's space and your portfolio meets the requirements, you can change. It is possible sometimes, but again, given some of our high demand programs, we overfill them. It's tricky to move from one program to another. So we're done. Sorry, go ahead, Mary. Yeah.
So someone said here, the extra place is going to animation this year for round 0. If I get full marks in the portfolio and have my full QQI marks, what are my chances in round 0? So that's, round 0 is for QQI or FE students. So out of 390, as I said, is the max, plus 600 for the portfolio. So it'd be 990. So that wouldn't be the 1004 points that you probably see on the prospectus. So that's kind of the max you would get there. What are the chances? We won't unfortunately know until after the 1st of February, but do if you have a leaving certificate as well, include that on your CO, and we can do the higher of the two for round one onwards. We don't, 1004 would be over the 990, which is the max for that, but we don't know what the points will be this year. We've, as I said, 3D animation as well, which we'd encourage you to put on if you're considering BA Honours in animation, include the BA Honours in 3D animation as well. But we won't have an idea of the points or the supply or the demand that we have for the courses until around the 8th of February. So very difficult. Just say put it on anyway before the 1st of February, and then submit your portfolio and see how you get on. Is it likely to get full marks in the animation portfolio? I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but a lot of people did get full marks, if I'm correct, Ronan. I think a lot, there was a lot of people got 600 points. It's not unusual. I think the judges are quite fair, and I think if they see something that's, you know, exceptional, I think they will genuinely rate it as exceptional and acknowledge great work.
You're muted, Ronan.
That's my problem. Sorry, just there's a question here around the limits of 25 works. There's no limits on the amounts of works really. There's a limit on the number of uploads, but you can have multiple works, and a video of a sketchbook could have multiple sketches in it, and a PDF could have multiple pieces of work in it. So that, you know, really there is no upper limit for the amount of stuff you can put up. And as I said, you can link to a website which has more work. So there's multiple ways where you can include lots of work. I've repeated the 150s a few times now, so I'm not going to go back and do that again. I'm sure it'll be typed into the chat. And there's some questions there for EU students. And yes, the CV is a description of your interest, skills, and experience with art or any other creative practice. You can make you can make any of these things work for you. There's no rules, if you like, in terms of things. So like and there's no set ways of doing these things. Will just a website suffice for graphic design submission? Will you need to back it up with PDFs, given that the website documents all your work? Again, I mean, it depends. It's hard to answer that question without saying. I mean, if the website shows a broad range of your work, the big thing a big mistake people make is showing just the finished work. And it's really important that we see the process. And that's why I think including PDFs that show your development and your research and your process at arriving at the final piece of work is really, really important. And there's a question here about creative music production. Is it okay to submit 2 covers of different songs, or do we have to produce original songs? Original work always trumps covers, if you like, but it depends if you're it depends on what you're applying for. If you're applying for practice and you're just showing your musicality, a cover would be okay. For the production stream, it's more about your creative production abilities. Bearing in mind that the practice pathway is very much embedded in the production pathway, so it's only an opportunity to keep playing your music rather than just being a pure music degree, if you like. How many people apply for graphic design? Again, it's very hard to know, but it swings and roundabouts, but it could be anywhere from 150 to and it's been much higher. It's been 250, 300 in some years. So it depends on the year. You don't need to hand in any work when you're applying for the project day, but when you're submitting the project day, you need to submit a CV and all the personal statement and those kinds of things when you're submitting it on the online platform. No problem for your portfolio to be over 25 pieces of work. The idea around the 25 is the 25 uploads, if you like, but then there can be multiple stuff within that. So the deadline for application to the restricted programs is the 1st of February, and the deadline for portfolio is March, and project day for the submission of the work is March 20th. The portfolio requirements for animation and 3D animation are the same, but you would need to make separate submissions. It's really important that you have to make, for every program you're applying for, you have to make a separate submission. Even if you're applying the same, even if you're submitting the same portfolio identically, it has to be separate submissions. Bachelor of Arts include film teaching in first year. On the BA in film, it does. Yes, it's very practical and hands-on program. All our programs are very practical, hands-on programs. Is your admissions office number compatible with WhatsApp or Signal?
I think we've kind of, as I know, myself and Robin have replied to a lot of these queries
Okay.
already. We've put down the international number +353 1 239 4621. So we've included that in the chat. And can someone please answer this question? For the film portfolio, does the pre-production work such as storyboards and shortlist have to be in a professional format?
No, I mean, it doesn't have to be in a professional format, but do help us to, I mean, it goes to, it's supporting documentation around the final piece of work. So it's showing us that you went through, again, a development process in making the work. Somebody has a question here, can I specialize in documentary during the Bachelor in Film? You can also specialize in documentary in the BA in television. And the BA in television actually emphasizes documentary in particular and factual programming. So I would encourage people to apply for both. It's very much the similar programs with a lot of shared modules.
So I think we have actually answered most of them, the
Okay.
questions. But the main thing is, I suppose, is on the project days as well, for the subjects that you're invited for to attend, where possible. If you can't attend the date that we assign you, let us know and we can facilitate you at one of the other days that's available and try and make it work. It'll be online, so hopefully that will suit the majority of applicants. Put us down on your CAO and submit your portfolio, submit your project day, because you know, if you don't get all that done, then we won't be able to offer you a place and see you in IDT in September. But admissions at idt.ie. Send any questions you have following on from this, be it specific or general, and we'll do our best to answer you as speedy as possible. And then yeah, we're just, we're excited to see you all. If you are doing it through CAO, as I said, the application until the 20th of January is €30, and then afterwards up until the 1st of February, so from the 21st to the 1st of February, it's €45. So no harm in setting it up now and getting €15 off. It's been a bit cheaper. But yeah, so admissions at idt.ie. Any questions, I'll put it in again and we'd be delighted to answer any questions. But thanks, Michelle, for setting this up, and thanks to Ronan and John today, and Robin, and we're looking forward to receiving all your applications and all your questions as well. So thanks everyone for this evening, and I think we're good to go.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. Thanks a million. And thanks to Mary as well, who's always so helpful with everyone and for their applications. This is recorded, so if you want to go back over it, please do. Like all those questions, I think we've answered in the chat and or during the course of the conversation today. And as Mary said, you can always come to us. And there's so much information on the website that addresses a lot of these questions as well. So hopefully in all of that, you'll find your way through this. So best of luck with your application. And I think we'll leave it there.
Guys.
Yeah, see you everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Well done. Thanks.
Thank you.